Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Celerity. It's such a wonderful forum for supply chain folks to come together and exchange ideas. Really happy and privileged to be here. The format for this panel discussion is fairly simple. I have a list of probably 8 or 10 questions that I'm going to throw at the experienced panelists that we have here. I will talk a little bit about them. They truly bring varied level of experience to this discussion. And then we will open the floor for questions to the audience, right? So that's the way we will go forward. So quickly introducing the panel here, we have Tannistha Ganguly. She has almost 2 decades of experience in technology and supply chain. She currently heads globally supply chain IT WMS for Kimberly-Clark. You can be rest assured that you can put all your questions when it comes to technology in warehouses to rest. So please be prepared with your questions for her. We have Gopal. Gopal is started with Big Basket when Big Basket was incubated. I think this was in 2012. Yeah, and he's been with Big Basket for the last 2 decades, a decade or so, and he has seen the transition of Big Basket from what it was to today, right? And I'm sure they're making the transition from being an e-commerce company to quick commerce company now, yeah? So that's Gopal. We have Prasanna Kulkarni, AVP Supply Chain at Reliance Retail. Prasanna has almost, again, 2 decades of experience working with brands like Reliance, Myntra, VF Aravind, so welcome Prasanna. And finally, we have Kapil, Premchandani. Kapil is the founder director of KD Logistics, an entrepreneur at heart. I've been talking to him since morning, and he has seen the transformation of warehousing industry for the last 2 decades. And I'm sure he has a lot of points to discuss with us how things are going to evolve in the next 2 decades. Yeah. So let's give a round of applause to our panelists here. So let me start with Tannistha and to all the panelists here, right? I mean, the question is, when you think about warehousing excellence, achieving excellence in warehouse operations, it could be in your own business or industry in general. How do you think about it? And if you can share 1 or 2 examples, from your experience or problems or challenges that you've come across and how you've sort of addressed it.
Thanks, Rajan, and very good afternoon to the audience here. Warehouse operations excellence. I'll speak from my expertise area, which is mainly the IT solutions, right? And how or what role IT solutions can help or what role they can play to enable companies or warehouses to have operations. So it's a broad area, broad question, right? Technology in terms of warehouse management systems or supporting software tools that's available today. It's layers and layers of stacked up technology that can help in various ways. For example, gone are the days where even for the smaller businesses, where warehouses used to be managed with paper and pen, right? Those days, even for smaller enterprises, I wouldn't today expect, given the volume that we are seeing in India and elsewhere, and the competition. So it's almost like, you have technology, you have to have some format or the other. Now, whether it's an expensive, state-of-the-art, AI, ML laden, or an SAP and Oracle, or you have something, a very local system, but you definitely have some flavor of it there. Going out of the basics, going past the basics, where efficiency comes in is, various functionalities that these technologies will bring in. In a warehouse, for example, what is your biggest concern? Space, maximizing your space utilization. Probably the second is, how soon can you pick an parcel, right? Labor, how do you manage your labor? How efficiently? And, of course, it depends industry to industry, but if I speak from FMCG industry where I come from, right? These efficiencies, pick efficiency, OTIF, these are very important KPIs where technologies help, especially for very, very large warehouses, where you cannot keep on training your labor, retraining them every time. You do face attrition. These routing algorithms that the technologies will give you, the layout recommendations that they will give you to save your time. These are the areas where you can see a lot of benefits from technology, right? I can go on and on, but I'm going to take a stop here and pass it on to the rest of the panelists.
It's a very, very, very pertinent point that you brought up, right? I mean, 2 decades back, if you talk about WMS, it was the giants who were implementing WMS at that point in time, who had volumes and who had the complexity in their supply chain. Today, WMS is available in, as Tannistha mentioned, in different forms and shapes, and you can start adopting technology right from, even if you're a small player trying to just do a location management or just manage your data that comes in and goes out, I mean, within the warehouse, right? So yeah, Gopal.
Thanks, Rajan. So, I mean, achieving excellence in warehousing operations, particularly e-commerce and quick commerce, today is fundamental, basic fundamental. So I have seen the journey of from last 12 years in Big Basket, from the day one of warehouse launch. I'm part of the journey. So, like we talked about technology. I think that's a backbone today for the complete transmission for the warehousing. So I looked at when we launched one warehouse and all the T1 cities we launched, their deliveries will be today and next day kind of deliveries. Slowly it is moved to 2 hours delivery. Then we launched almost another 50, 60 dark stores. Today it is moved to 10 minutes delivery, quick delivery. So we launched 500 stores. So every area, starting from mother DC to dark stores, every area is super critical. One is back. Technology is playing a very, very key role, and labor intensity, I mean, white collar workforce, and even for the last mile deliveries, and managing space effectively with a smaller space, with a higher throughput, and managing inventory, managing availability. Every area is playing a very key role. So that's the reason I said it's achieving excellence in warehouse is, so it's a basic now. So basic fundamentals, so we have to follow.
How do you define excellence in the context of e-commerce when you are doing 2-day delivery or a next day delivery versus a quick commerce where you do 10-minute delivery? Is there a difference in definition as far as excellence is concerned in your business?
The basic is like, I mean, we have a time when you look at, in the case of e-commerce, you have a time, so you can do slow and steady. But in case of quick commerce, it's like speed, right? So you have to be very effective in that.
So you basically end up optimizing for speed in dark store. I'm assuming that you have probably a minute or two to pick, pack, and hand it over to the delivery
sometimes
person.
Even minute is not available.
Even the minute is not available. Yeah. If you want 5-minute delivery, you probably get about 30 seconds to pick and pack, right? So I'll come to Prasanna. Prasanna, what are your thoughts in the context of retail and lifestyle retail?
Yeah, so basically the rules what are applied for FMCG in a way are applied for all the categories, even for the category what I am representing, fashion and lifestyle. So the need for 10 minutes delivery may not be required as of now because that is not something customer demanding right now. So, but coming back to the need for achieving the efficiency. So what is happening is in today's competitive market for companies to ensure that they achieve their revenue targets, right? So they will go on doing whatever is required. Maybe somebody was mentioning in the morning, forecast, projection, all that. They are fine. So they are in the paper and they serve as the major guiding principles. But however, when there is an opportunity, when there is a market demand something, then that's when probably all the upstream divisions of an organization have to pull their socks and deliver what is required to the business to achieve their goals. From this perspective, the warehouse has to be efficient by any means. It could be technology, it could be the better planning, it could be the designing of the warehouse, and ensuring many methods to turn around the fulfillment as fast as possible. So anything and everything is required to be done at optimal cost or as fast as possible with accuracy and least possible cost.
Sure. Thank you, Prasanna. Kapil?
So typically, if you look at it, warehouse is something which have evolved over a period of time. Now, the whole excellence part, what we are talking about. See, we are all here today in the morning, we were discussing about life cost of a product. We were talking about also involving the other divisions like sales and at the same point of time, marketing. What happens is warehousing is there to aid to make sure whatever you've ordered is delivered. So you make sure what is the time you are taking to deliver the products, and it varies from industry to industry. The needs are different, as Prasanna was talking about that there are certain there are different ordering patterns, delivery patterns in apparels. There are different ordering and delivery patterns in grocery. So what's happening is this is evolving over a period of time. And why is it becoming all the more important now? Because very soon our country is gradually moving from traditionally, from a warehousing parlance I'm talking about, from a B2B to a B2C industry. And what's happening is the moment it's moving to a B2C industry, warehousing, delivery timelines, all of this is becoming increasingly important. Because at the end of the day, we are all concerned about what is the time we have ordered the product and what is the time I'm getting the product. Also at the same point of time, have I got what I've ordered? If I haven't got what I've ordered, then warehousing operations are not good. So this is how I would like to define excellence.
Excellent. So you're basically saying that, of course, things are changing, things are evolving. It is moving from B2B to B2C. Even the B2B customers, the expectations are completely changing, given what e-commerce and quick commerce have done to the perceptions. And therefore, that's something that businesses will have to look at. And obviously, it will vary depending on business to business. I want to talk about two very important points, right? One is on automation. We keep hearing about automation, ASRS, robotics, cobots. We spoke about that this morning, but in the context of warehousing, right? We're not talking about manufacturing units, but in the context of warehousing. And next, I would want to touch about data, right? How do we use data to sort of leverage data to sort of improve our warehouse operations, right? So I'll start with Prasanna, you. I'm assuming that Reliance Retail, the kind of volumes that Reliance Retail is doing, you will have massive warehouses that are supplying to retail outlets, right? There's always this question about how much of automation should you adopt? Right? Is there an ROI for automation? And this question is something that we've been pondering for the last 2 decades in India. It's not an easy answer to that question. How have you or your organization thought about it? And where do you strike that balance between where to automate versus using human manpower?
Okay. So basically, if we have to take a step back and just recap why we need to automate. What are the larger benefits of automation? So one is achieving the scale, right? So we can achieve the required scale in a more predictable manner, right? What can be reproduced, what can be repeated without any errors, with accuracy, which will eventually help us with better cost, right? And one other reason for automation, I think, which is very critical, and some of my colleagues would agree, is getting the manpower, right? The manpower who work on the warehouse floor is getting difficult, and it's going to be difficult in the coming days because all the industries are going, the number, what is being handled in each of the warehouses is increasing, so the number of people who are required. What is happening is So assume what happens in next 10 years. The requirement of the manpower is going to increase manifold. But where are these people coming from? There are not many people who are joining warehouse to operate at a floor level. It could be because of the natural progression in the industry where a sample picker working for 6 months, so he would like to go to next position, or maybe he is finding it easy to work in a mall rather than toiling himself in the warehouse floor. Or people are studying as and when the level of education increases, and then probably people find better jobs, right, than working on the warehouse floor. So it becomes really very important for organization to consider automation to mitigate the risk of the workforce shortages in the coming days. So that is something what companies are, why they are thinking of doing the automation. But we all know, so going for a complete automation is not going to solve, because human touch is going to remain. So some of the aspects like adaptability, flexibility, or key decision making on the go and on every single moment in the warehouse, right? Scenarios keep changing. So those kind of nuances cannot be addressed by automation, because assuming that we have designed or implemented the automation solution in a right way, but still it is a rigid system. Whatever we have designed for, it can deliver only to that extent. But wherever some intelligence, some change in the design inputs is required, then probably that's where human interaction has to be there. So provided companies or people do it depending upon the scale, their appetite for investing the capex. So then the next critical thing is doing it right way. So which are the processes where we need to automate? So somebody can invest, doesn't mean that there is a economical sense to go and implement automation in every single process. So assuming that we have done that, and we have done enough in terms of data crunching and all that, the process is implemented properly where it is required. So assuming that it is done, Rajan, then coming to the main, another second part of your question, how to strike balance between automation processes and the workforce. So when we automate something, so probably in India, the automation is still in a nascent stage. We have not seen the maturity yet. So there are not many people or the workforce who are well versed with automated processes, right? Or who have seen it in many other companies, and they are coming here for a job. So ensuring that there is a proper training given to them, there is a proper upskilling happens to these people who are working, and at the same time, so giving them some sense of pride that they are working in the automated industry at this point of time where not many companies have invested in. These are the few things what we need to do. So one is from a process perspective. Second is the people perspective. So if we do take care of these two things, then the conflict between workforce and automation or the processes would be minimized.
No, excellent. I think you brought up a lot of points there. So let me try and summarize a couple of points you talked about. In fact, you touched about a very pertinent point where I wanted Kapil also to come in terms of the labor, in terms of the skill set of labor, and the fact that you're seeing labor moving away from doing a warehousing job to going to a mall, which is probably a easier job and they get paid more. That's something that I wanted Kapil to come in as well. But that is one very important point. The other point you talked about is about automation, not for the sake of automation, right? I mean, if it makes perfect sense, because you lose flexibility as well. If there is scale, if there is repeatability, and if it makes economic sense, then you go ahead and invest in that automation. I wanted to also get to know a little bit more in detail about the kind of automations that you've done in your warehouse. I'll come back to that. But before that, I wanted Kapil to sort of come in and talk about labor and skills, because you've been sort of dealing with this for the last couple of decades. How have you seen things evolve? Given that where we are as far as our per capita is concerned and where we are going in the next couple of decades. So if you can just talk about that.
As Prasanna and you rightly pointed out, between a warehouse and a mall, essentially when we look at people, it's a urban-rural divide. So essentially the way it works out, people want to work in malls, as you rightly pointed out. And essentially there is dearth of people who want to work in the warehouse. So what happens is you have to tap into tier 3, tier 4 cities to get people to make sure they are working. But what is important is you've got to make them feel that it's important, that what they are doing is they are actually playing an important role in lighting the lives of people. Because what we are doing is unless and until we pick a product, you won't get it in your homes. So these are the kind of things we actually inculcate in our people to make them realize that the job they are doing is very important. What happens is, and then as Prasanna was rightly talking about automation. So typically what happens is, what is leading to automation? As Prasanna pointed out, there is the dearth of manpower which is leading to automation, but at the same point of time, you will have to look at why do you need automation? You need automation because land is becoming more expensive. So what happens is, earlier when you had to open a warehouse, you were paying about 10, 12 rupees a square feet on a rental basis. Now rentals are, let's say, surging in 18, 24, 30 rupees a square feet. So you have no other option but to utilize the height. Now for utilizing the height, what will you do? You will go into vertical expansion. Right now you are actually storing your goods horizontally. From horizontal, now you're going to vertical expansion of products. What is this? This is one form of automation. Likewise, secondly, what's also happening is when earlier you were doing in a B2B environment, it was more of a box in, box out movement. Now you have a piece in, piece out movement. And that piece is directly getting delivered to the consumer. There is no scope for error. Earlier, there was a scope for error because it was going to a distributor. Now it is not going to a distributor. You've got to make sure it is delivered accurately. Now, for making sure that is delivered accurately, you've got to have the right tools. And that is where technology is playing a pivotal role. In my opinion, what automation is doing, there is a lot of black and white in warehouses. And there is nothing called black and white. There's a lot of gray. To make sure that gray becomes black and white, you need automation and tech. And that is what is happening.
Interesting, very interesting. I'll come to Gopal regarding automation. If you can, the fact that Big Basket moves a large amount of volume, right? I'm sure the SKU complexity, the order complexity was going to be quite huge, in Big Basket warehouses. So, have you automated any of your warehouses, or is it just running on manual? Just that one question. The second question is on data. On data, how are you leveraging data, right? We know for the fact that yours is a technology company more than anything else, right? And supply chain technology plays a very important role. How do you leverage data to sort of improve your warehouse operations, right? And I'll follow that up with you if you can talk about data as well.
So the first question, automation, I think without automation, quick commerce will not work at all. So very, very critical for us to automate few things. I mean, it will never be 100% automation in India, at least as of the current scenario. But for sure, the couple of key factors. If you look at the picking, if it has to be done in 2 minutes. So we can't use paper, we can't sit and assign the orders. It won't work. So it has to be, as in when the customer is placed order, within few seconds, it has to go to the picker in automated way. Then only he will be able to finish the picking in a minute or two. So otherwise, these in the quick dark stores, for sure, many aspects is automated, and the still warehousing part is still not manual. All this technology related is there, but hardware related still.
It's on a manual. You don't have robots doing picking, and you don't have sorters and so on and so forth, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
okay.
So I think that will take a little more. So coming back to data, since in case of quick commerce or e-commerce, every second is important, right? So every second, without looking at the data, you can't act anything. Demand forecasting, for example, for even Diwali planning itself, demand, how much demand will come, and every customer demand we have to fulfill. And at the same time, you should not have any out of stock. At the same time, you should not hold the higher stocks, because if you hold higher stock, then it will have an impact of because that won't sell in this year. Again, you have to wait for next year, right? So, that's one, and real-time inventory tracking. It's super critical. Even though stock is planned, but it's becoming out of stock. You have to look at real time to replenish the stocks, which is going to be the critical. I mean, always data is helping. And next is the efficiencies. When we look at the efficiencies, it's a real-time dashboards. It's always real-time dashboards, whether the picker is picked in 1 minute, 2 minutes, whether is any picker, any associate is taking more time for stacking. Every element is data is helping. At the same time, even not only for that, even space management. So today, even we started with 5,000, 6,000 is e-commerce. Today, you can see 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, right? These many SKUs you have to accommodate within the same space. You can't get more and more spaces, and it's costlier in the dark store scenario. Warehouses, since it is out of the city, which makes sense, but here the space management is also very critical. It's impacting. If you don't plan it well using the data, it will impact a lot. So
I'll Tannistha, if you can comment on data and how typically, I mean, how do you use or leverage data to sort of improve efficiency in warehouse operations? Yeah.
So I don't remember who, but one of the earlier speakers did mention that unless you have an effective data strategy, you're not utilizing the resources that you already have. And I will be honest, even in Kimberly-Clark where I work and many other companies, this is one area we are not efficient. We either don't have a good data strategy or we don't know the importance of having one, right? Again, my opinion, I don't want to offend anyone but so what I would say, warehouses typically are connected to your ERPs. I mean, normally that's how the whole linkage is, right?
In a B2B context, yes.
In a B2B context, yes. And there's a lot of data that flows from various systems, and especially between your ERP and your WMS. But I have seen even in my company a lot of data mining and reporting and KPIs that we could do or we should do, we don't effectively use because we've not put in that effort and the strategy to mine that data and build our own data strategy and build effective reports for the, let's say, for the senior leadership. I'm just giving a particular example here. When I started a project, just to see how we can have comparable KPIs or reports between two regions of our warehouse management system, right? The KPIs that these two regions are different. The way they are managing, the way they are building those reports for their leaders are different. So somebody is taking it out from an Excel, a dump in an Excel, and then putting it in another Excel, which has formula, and then there is mismatch, and a week goes by in all that data massaging. And the other region, I'm not taking the region names, but the other region is using dashboards and Power BI and others, and they are saying, oh, we are very fast and we are real time. But when I go back and look at the data that they are saying real time, it's a week or at least 3-4 days old, right? So these are the real scenarios that we have, and what we try to do is how do we ensure that you have a seamless data flow and you also get the data at the right time, right? So let's say of the 44 KPIs that we were tracking in that project, out of the 44, I think 4 or 5 were the ones where we actually needed real-time data because of the KPI. The rest you could actually take older version data because it's not needed. It's not a real-time KPI that you're monitoring, right? So based on that, you decide what technology you will use. So for 4 or 5 KPIs, you need not buy an expensive subscription of a real-time data tool. Don't invest so much. You can actually use bad jobs to take the data, work on them, make your KPIs. So these are kind of design decisions, you can say, that we normally have to take, but then we also have to invest in the investigation of what data is there and how you're using, how the business is using. I think that's with this example, what I wanted to say is that investigation is something that we should be investing in, I think.
Got it. Prasanna, you want to come in on data? I'm pretty sure running large operations without insights from data is not going to be that easy.
Yeah, I completely agree with this statement and what Tannistha also made. So running the large set of warehouses spread across country and catering to multiple channels of distribution, be it online, be it offline, be it multi-channel outlet, all that. So data becomes really critical. One is setting the KPIs, right? So KPIs, basically how I see it is two kind of KPIs. One is input KPI and another is output KPI. Output KPI are something which are essential for business or what customer wants, and input metrics are basically for operation team to track to ensure that if we achieve those input metrics, automatically the output matrices are achieved. So coming to the data point, yes, the data at fingers on key things, what will help us to achieve the input matrix is very, very crucial so that we can take a decision by sitting over wherever, maybe your head office is Bangalore or somewhere, we sit across the place, run the data and see where the problem is happening, where the attention is required, or maybe where some help is required. So that from that perspective, data becomes really very critical. One is on the urgent aspect. Second thing is any underlying problem which is dragging the performance of a particular warehouse, maybe a particular department, particular warehouse, particular region. So all that. So therefore that
Can you give an example if I probably want to go one level deeper there? Can you give us an example of leveraging data to solve a warehousing problem or improve KPI for that matter?
See, one single simplest thing which everybody would be aware is basically the short pick cases in the warehouse. So drop in the order fill rate. So the outcome matrices says I'm able to fulfill customer order to the extent of only say 97 some percentage. Now that is only a outcome metric, or that is the indicator what is telling us something is wrong. I'm just talking about it could be one particular warehouse or one particular region. This is what the observation. Now what happens is with that data, we can get into the depth analysis. So what is happening, why it is 97 or 98 where the targets are much above 99%. So is it particular, I'm just getting into too much of detailing, Rajan, because the question needs that requires that. So probably in warehouse, we have multiple levels, right? Is there any particular floor is having a major issue with inventory inaccuracy? Is it a particular category of the product? Like if I talk about my parlance, it is shirt, it could be shirt, it could be bottom, it could be some accessories, it could be footwear. In which category we are seeing the more problem? And also, is it something related to the constituent of the team who are doing the daily cycle count in the warehouse? So it will help us to get the key insights into understanding the problem so that we can take the required action and get the fill rates under control. This is one example. I mean, we can cite many such examples. So that this is one key example where it is directly linked to the customer.
Yeah. Let me also give you an example since you gave one. I think slotting is, if you're running really large operations, slotting is something that is super important and it can help you both in terms of optimizing on your space and optimizing on your productivity. And this is not something a lot of warehouses in India, not even outside India do, right? This is just expanding on that. Just switching gear, Kapil wanted your thoughts on 3PL, right? What we see in the Western world is a lot of the distribution centers, the field distribution centers, as we would want to call them, right? Which are probably a regional distribution center or even a local distribution center, which sort of ships to customers, are run by 3PLs, right? There are clear SLA agreements that 3PLs get into with businesses, with brands, and then they run the 3PL and sort of meet those SLAs, right? We've been struggling with that as in that area. You might want to come in on that and say, hey, why are we struggling, right? Is there something that we need to do differently? And this morning, I heard a gentleman talk about how 3PLs are not able to meet the requirements when it comes to meeting certain standards in the chemical industry. If you could address that point as well.
Interesting question. So I think I would like to take this question as either you manage your own supply chain or you're looking at 3PLs to manage warehouses or extension of supply chains for you. So there has always been a conundrum over cost and control. So what happens is one theory says that we should be running our warehouses on our own because we'll have complete control over processes, over complete control over things. And the other is you build in outsourcing because outsourcing helps you in kind of keeping your cost competitive. But more than that, if you go a little bit more deeper, there is a lot of things at play here. One is outsourcing gives you a lot of flexibility because what happens is demand patterns are a lot erratic. At the same point of time, there are various regulation issues also which are at play. Now what happens is when you are running large warehouses, when you're talking about regional distribution centers, in any or all warehouses, the number of warehousing licenses required are to the tune of about 8 to 9. Anytime when you are launching a new product, do you want to get into the hassle of regulation yourself, applying for a license yourself, or you would rather look at experts who could help you in getting licenses and making sure you can do? Also, what is happening is very soon warehouses are also having, I'll typically give you an example of, let's say, a company like Mondelez, where they also have to do celebration packs in the warehouses during Diwali because the demand suddenly goes up. How are you going to do that? Now, if you are doing it yourself, you have a limited resources with you. It is rather important to look at individuals who build their core expertise in those areas because they will give you that flexibility. They will give you that ample leg space to play around. And that is why I would look at it. And it differs from industry to industry. Because for a FMCG environment, it is very much organized, which is documented to the last decimal. This is auto and FMCG industries are two industries where everything is documented to the last decimal. Because this industry typically has no problem of returns also. But wherein if you look at apparels altogether and so, you look at e-commerce altogether and so, they have a big problem of returns altogether and so. So what is happening is you also have to look at what problems are you trying to solve. But one thing I can tell you for sure, that if you have to work on your core expertise, which is actually marketing and branding, and there are 3PL logistics companies which are willing to take over that piece from you, because that is the expertise we bring into play. Also at the same point of time, warehousing largely happens in rural areas. Because for any company, when they are setting up a manufacturing facility largely happens in a rural area only. When you're setting up a manufacturing facility, you kind of focus, you build in terms of manufacturing a product. Are you willing to commit to give the same amount of time in building warehouses, running your supply chains, or you would rather want professionals to run it? So this is something I would like to mention. Coming to your second question, where you said 3PLs essentially don't have the ability to manage the complexities which today's world is throwing upon us. See, importantly, you have to look at it. There are many good 3PLs in our country which are willing to take everything and anything. But please understand one thing, there is still a lot of gray, which I was telling you. Now, if I'll give you an example, I was actually talking to a very big retailer in our country, and they were asking us to manage fruits and vegetables for us. Now, what happens is typically, when you buy tomatoes, you buy at an X kg. And after ripening, the weight goes down. In some cases, it goes up. Who is going to be debited for that? Now, the point is this, even the original equipment manufacturer or the retailers don't have an answer to that question. So what you will have to understand, you will have to look at the integrity of the player, and you have to collaborate with him, handhold him, bring it to a certain standard. That is how you will be able to solve this problem.
Excellent, excellent. Last couple of questions, and then I'll open it to the audience to ask questions. Gopal, this is for you. What strategies can be implemented to make warehousing more agile and responsive to changing demands? If you can, sort of, again, the same e-commerce and quick commerce example, right? There's one is agility and flexibility, if you can probably, answer that, yeah.
It's customer expectations, right? So, particularly now the customer expectations are completely changed, right? So now even when we started, next day itself it is good, but now it is even 10 minutes also it is a delay. So speed is one which is customer expecting. I mean, we want.
I'm
very
feeling
quickly.
little guilty. Just on the lighter note, I am a very loyal customer of your company. And now that he's saying, customer is so demanding, I'm sitting right next to him and feeling guilty about it. Yeah, that's the reality.
Yeah. So, and one is majorly speed. I mean, not all age of customers, but like Gen Z now today, their expectations are changed, their speed and reliability and convenience. Now it's a more convenience for the customers. Right? So these, even reliability, even once you deliver to the customers, it has to be more reliable, and it's always, even customer expectation is ever. I mean, it's a good that even we are changing a lot from many years to today, and even for the next 10 years also, it is going to be the good momentum for the e-commerce and quick commerce, which is changing a lot, and even operationally also, even for the people point of view also, it is helping for the lot of opportunities in this industry.
Right. Last question, and then audience questions. Lot of, and this is something that any one of you can pick up, right? So a lot of businesses, when they think about warehouses, it could be factory warehouses, field warehouses, they don't put, at least that's what I've seen, that the amount of time and effort they put in designing these warehouses, right? Making sure that the layouts, the processes, the systems are properly designed before you sort of start occupying the space, or even take the shell on rent for that matter, right? I have seen that to be little on the, I've not seen that happening a lot, rather, right? And that I believe is going to, sort of, it helps you in terms of achieving the warehousing efficiency, right? Unless and until you know exactly why you're building that warehouse and for what purpose, what are you going to work, what's the output that you're going to get out of it, right? Any thoughts on that, right? And how have you seen it, Kapil, for example, when a customer comes to you, what is the brief?
So what happens is, typically, you rightly pointed out this, that the design of the warehouse is very important. When you are selecting a warehouse, it's very important for you. I'll give you a very simple example. When you are taking a warehouse on rent, the first thing what a company person looks at is the rental of the property. However, one should not be looking at that. What happens is, you'll also have to look at what are the approach roads in front of the property? What are the apron roads in front of the property? Because you need to maneuver containers. Now what happens is, the more land you leave for a warehouse, the land becomes expensive, because the warehouse becomes expensive. And the moment what happens is, you are giving this solution to a customer, you become incompetitive, because you're getting a warehouse in 16, 17, 18 rupees a square feet, which is not as efficient as it should be. Whereas a grade A warehouse typically would be costing you 23, 24 rupees a square feet. This again boils down, takes us to the same cost, whether it's the acquisition cost or it is the life's cost of the product, which we should look at. Today in the morning, when Anil was talking about essentially, I think Dr. Gupta was talking about it. He was talking about the fact that one is an acquisition cost, one is an operating cost, one is a maintenance cost. While you are selecting a warehouse, you need to be mindful of all these things as well. You also need to look at what is the collateral load of the roof, because what happens is, most of the times when I go and select a warehouse, nobody asks this question, because we've got to put solar panels. Everybody talks about sustainability. Sustainability will only come when you have a collateral load of the roof, which is, let's say, about 55 kgs plus, maybe 30 kgs plus. Nobody is looking at these things, because you become uncompetitive. And then you also hear that the Indian 3PLs are not competitive enough to manage your complexity altogether. And so I think it's very important for us as an industry to collaborate and handhold each other and get into a little bit detailing. What is happening is, over the last 15 years, tremendous amount of work has happened in logistics industry. You have a set of players like Indospaces coming in. In fact, Indospace used to come and tell me that we haven't had FMCGs coming and signing warehouses with us. But it's beginning to change now over the last 5-6 years of time. Why is it happening? Because the warehouses itself have become like manufacturing facilities now. So now you are forced to look at the design of a warehouse. And it is becoming increasingly pivotal. And that is substantiated with 2 examples also, which I give.
Thank you so much, Kapil. Prasanna, you want to come in there as well? Because internal logistics, he spoke about the warehouse building and the external apron space and so on and so forth. But internally, how do you think about it?
See, just to add to what Kapil is just mentioned, what is critical for us is to see things from a 360-degree perspective, not in isolation, right? Just by saving warehouse cost. So we may have a best of consultant to design us the layout, flow, automation, everything. But what is the point of we opening a warehouse in remotest area, right? We might save a big warehouse cost, but we may incur very high logistic cost. It may delay the timeline we reaching to the customer. So it has to be 360-degree perspective, what should be looked into. And as a supply chain leaders, it's our responsibility to ensure that we are holding our requirement firm with our managements and we do not compromise to a larger extent. There could be cost implication and some compromises would be done, but it is our responsibility to ensure that to deliver required result, some bare minimum things need to be, we should have that.
Sure. Thank you, Prasanna. Thanks, Kapil. Open it up for questions from the audience now.
Thanks to our panelists for the great insights. I want to pick your brain on one of my thought is we know that our warehouse operations are evolving, right, over last few decades and all, right, thanks to the technology, the new processes and everything, right? Now, what I have realized the biggest challenge in adopting, let's say, the practice of Industry 4.0 or something for warehouse operation is not the access to technology, not the finance, not the mindset, but the resistance to change at the warehouse operation model, basically the ground staff, the operators, what we are talking, right? They are used to operating maybe 10, 15 years ago, they were doing some way, and they do not want to change, right? What's your thought, like how we can overcome that? That's the biggest resistance, at least I face on the ground level.
Chal, it's a very good question. And I would like to take this, Rajan, because I keep facing this on an ongoing basis. So typically, I keep telling my people, we were running a warehouse earlier where we used to work from Monday to Saturdays. Now we also run warehouses for apparel companies, for e-commerce companies, and we run warehouses 24/7 by 365 days. There were times in my career, and I'm very candid in expressing this to you, that 26th of January, 15th of August used to be holidays. And we used to tell companies that you've got to pay double the overtimes if you've got to get people working there. And people also were hesitant to come to the warehouses. And it's a reality which I'm telling you. I have actually been telling my people that let's not look at warehouse as a warehouse. Let's look at warehouse as an essential service like a hospital, like a fire brigade. Because what's happening is you've got to work 24/7 by 365 days. Most of our warehouses right now, which are working 24/7 by 365 days because that is how the market is evolving over a period of time. And when it comes to mindset altogether, and so as you rightly said, I think e-commerce has brought that mindset because what is happening is today, whether it's a Diwali or a Holi, people still expect deliveries at their home. Now, people will only get products at home when people like us will operate the warehouses on those given days. So there is a significant shift which is happening. What is also happening is there is a change in the mindset of the administrations also, that warehouses is becoming an essential need. When COVID came, trust me, the collector of Maharashtra called me himself, of Bombay called me himself, and he told me, Kapil, if you're facing any difficulties in running the warehouses, just give me a call. Make sure products are delivered. So there is a change which is happening. But that change is gradual, as you rightly said, because these big warehouses are set up in rural areas. So what is happening is with the help of getting migratory workers, it's changing. But we are actually building a sentiment in our team that warehouses are no longer warehouses. They are actually like hospitals. They are actually like malls. They are an extension of retail places altogether. That is what we are trying to do.
I'll just try and not summarize, but just add a point to that. You'll be surprised. I've actually run warehouses. I've designed warehouses. They are way more smarter than we are, right? I mean, the point is we just don't collaborate with them. We just tell them what to do, and they're expected to do, right? If you train them, if you collaborate with them, and as Kapil said, if you run it like a hospital, and that's the message that you're giving the folks on the ground, you'll be alarmed in terms of what they can do for you, right? So that's what the problem is. The problem is not about they not understanding or whatever, right? It's just that we don't collaborate with them.
Got to build adequate manpower for that as well. Because when you talk to brands are saying that only एक Sunday खुलेगा एक हफ्ते में. अब एक Sunday खोलना है कि 3 Sunday खोलना है. That's what I'm trying to tell you. These are the conversations what my team has, and that's why I'm bringing out in the public forum.
Just to add on the particularly manpower, last couple of weeks I think we hired some 3,000 associates and 5,000 riders, etc. So the same associates maybe a few years back, we used to train them in a week time. Today you have to train them in 6 hours. Okay. So effective training. Obviously, whenever we do the shift change, because even I have seen multiple changes in the quick commerce, e-commerce and quick commerce, using technology and effective training is very quickly people are adopting for the changes. That's really, it will help for a lot.
Absolutely, and you will get a lot of insights from the people on the floor. Go talk to them, they will tell you how to improve efficiency, right? We think that we can sit in a boardroom and a conference room and create all that. It's not going to be possible, right?
Bharat here. You brought an important point, actually. That's my next question. See, what we lack from my own experience is this dynamic interventions with skill functions within a very, very large warehouse. Okay, you see different resources in maybe a mismatch in the functions that they are operating. Now, we don't have a tool or a report, a very dynamic driven approach where we take interventions on a daily basis or a weekly basis to switch roles of key resources, considering the productivity mapping across. See, in very large warehouses, when you have very volumes, scheduling for shifts based on productivity strengths of resources becomes crucial. So you need to know what kind of resources at what productivity levels can be in one shift or combined in one shift, and reschedule them to different functions and map their strengths accordingly. See, one is the lack of shortage of manpower and the kind of vendor concerns, supplier vendor of resources concerns we have, but we don't have enough tools for middle level management to handle this crisis, because he might not really know certain resources which are skilled in one area, but he might be in the wrong function. So onboarding certain people, the right levels at a different function, that needs constant evolved approach with tools, and also with the way how we observe, because we cannot do much. We need tools to actually switch roles and see how it can be done. So that is something where I feel progress has to happen in terms of excellence. And the next stage is all automation and other things we talk. And of course, you made a right point when you said that becomes how we do it, how we dynamically intervene will become a good point to progress and improvise, yeah.
Was there a question?
The question is, are we doing it in the large format warehouses? Are we, or is it something, it'll take some time? Do we need tool support, or, so what's it, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. I'll take it up. So basically I can answer from my format, which is fashion and lifestyle warehouses. So if you ask me, is there a direct question and laid out process, or everything is readily available? The answer is honestly no, right? So because it is evolving. Now what we do, or what we are trying to do, we are not there at 100%. So basically, in any warehouse, there are only 3 to 4 key operations, right? Which define the entire throughput of the warehouse, right? And in that 4 transactions or 4 operations, there could be one transaction which is really the bottleneck, because which defines the overall throughput, like picking. Picking, as we know, in a non-automated environment, is the single most challenging bottleneck from a perspective of the picker perspective, right? He has to travel a lot, laborious process, all that. So one is identifying for at least key 2-3 combination, what is the average productivity per hour one should be achieving, right? And creating something called as a skill matrix of the people who all are involved, right? So for first thing is basically you train the people on key transactions, Then second thing is you keep rotating them in the jobs, right? Person doing inbound operation, probably after 1 month, he will go to picking and do the job rotation and identify which person can do what all key activities in the warehouse. So if this chart, even if we achieve some 70% accurately, then what it will help us is for a DC manager or the shift operator, he knows, right, who are the people who are present today in the warehouse. Because the challenge with 3PL manpower, I know Kapil is here, but I just want to say that you don't know who is going to come today, right? Only once they are on the floor, you will know, boss, yes, this person has come, this person has not come. Right? So depending upon your daily morning workload, what you are supposed to deliver on that day, and keep reference the skill matrix, try to balance as much as possible. If your picking load is very high, see which all people who are now working in other department, but they can pick. Obviously that they will not be able to achieve the productivity level of an experienced picker. Even if they are able to deliver it to the tune of say 60-70% efficiency level, and still you will be able to manage to larger extent, because priority activity among multiple activities is dispatches or forward, right? All other activities can delay a bit.
Sure.
I have one question for Gopal. This, as it is, there's a shortage of manpower because it's a demanding job, especially on your QCOM. What is the motivation in order to keep them? First question. Secondly, are you guys making money out of this QCOM business?
Yeah, so the first question for the, I think today's world, particularly all the people who is working in the warehouses are last mile delivery people, I think it's more into the how incentivization is literally creating a more effective motivation for them. So because since they're earning more when you give them a better incentives based on the productivities, etc. So that will really helping. Even if you look at riders are earning maybe more than 50,000. Some riders who are doing well. Similarly, associates. It's all about how you're motivating them to make more better incentives based on their performances. Second question, I think we are all seeing in quick commerce. Definitely, I think Kapil asked in the afternoon the same question. Quick commerce is definitely doing well in terms of even profitability. It may take time based on the city by city, region by region, based on the performance of the store. It's all about the store level performance. Many stores are doing really good. Some stores may not be doing well based on the geography or where the location is available. So it's all about the city-wise, location-wise. It will vary, but it's definitely doing well in the quick.
Nice to hear. Loyal customers.
Oh, thank you so much.
Maybe you want to take this on Gopal on that e-commerce to quick commerce switch and the insight that you told us when we were outside for a chai. I think that will also be exciting. If you can just talk about that. Are you making a switch from e-commerce to quick commerce? Or are you continuing with both e-commerce and quick commerce, which basically same day or next day delivery and then 10, 30-minute delivery, whatever?
Yeah, I think as we discussed, I think so. These Gen Z customers is always preferred to be we need quick, right? And similarly, there are customers, even we have platinum customers, they always want the planned purchases and they want delivery whenever they want.
So 40 plus customers who are 40 plus,
yeah.
You said prefer same day or the next day delivery because they planned for it, and then you have quick commerce, which is Gen Z customers, yeah.
Yeah, depends. Even 60 years customers, they want quick, but there are some few platinum and gold customers, we have always loved to get the deliveries as per their convenient time. So that's the reason. Quick is, if you look at now recent changes in the big basket, you see everything is quick, but at the same time, when you want, always available, either you want today, evening, tomorrow, even 1 week later, you can plan in big basket. That's the best feature is available in big basket as always. Obviously, yeah, yeah. Quick versus e-commerce. Always e-commerce cost is very, very low. Multiple reasons. Quick, like you have to pick every order in very quick time. Versus if it is planned orders, you can have a multiple orders picked and productivities are higher side. So it's always effective. And even delivery point of view, today you have to deliver only one order if it is quick. Versus if it is e-commerce, you can deliver multiple orders.
Very different models, right? You solve for speed as far as quick commerce is concerned, and you solve for.
And even customer order values also is higher in
Is higher.
slotted because it's a planned purchases.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Thanks to the panel for giving a lot of insights to us. I have very specific questions for big players like Kimberly-Clark or Big Basket or Reliance, right? So you talk about different challenges like space constraint or labor constraint and how efficiently you can manage your warehouse and bring about efficiency. I know you are trying to innovate in that space, but are you also open for other forums? Like, do you have a forum, innovation forum, where you invite third-party solution providers, startups to come and pitch for solutions which they are already solving probably, which you may not be aware of, but they are efficiently solving for. So are you having a culture where you invite startups or solution providers to come and showcase their products?
No, absolutely. I'll answer this first. We definitely do that. And it's not just a showcase. We actually engage with many startups who can give a complementary functionality over our, let's say, the backbone of ERP and WMS that we have, right? So I'll give a specific example. Like we worked with a startup on drone counting. We are working with another startup on voice speaking. So we are working with another in the procurement area, not in warehouse, but to automate the last level, tail spend, to automate tail spend. So the number of startups we have worked with, we also want to, we are looking at areas where we can look in, bring in specific KPI monitoring using AI/ML. So there's lots of startups we have engaged. We keep engaging with them, but what happens is not every solution is what we need, and it may not suit our IT rules, security rules, guidance. We've had to not work with several because they could not satisfy the criteria. So it's an ongoing discussion, actually.
Big Basket builds their own tech. Prasanna?
No, the answer is obviously, because as much as startups need the established companies would also need somebody who can come out with some unique propositions or some propositions or solutions which these companies are not able to solve. So this engagement is not new. This has been happening. It is going to happen. It is going to, it is continued to happen. Because it is a mutual dependency.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, panelists.